Can anyone here count to 300 million? No takers? Me neither. 300 million is a big number. It is one of those figures that can be hard to quantify, impossible to count, and challenging to put in real-world terms, especially in a human context. But there is humanity in that vast number. The population of the United States is above 300 million after all, and this figure gains idealistic prominence when talking about voting. Now, while the number that actually go to the ballot box is far fewer than 300 million, there are still reasons that show the importance of voting. I'm going to discuss key reasons to vote in terms of its civic, historic, and aspirational importance. The civic importance of voting extends far beyond just the act itself. In many ways, voting can be the harbinger for other good and civic-minded things to come, partly as a result. According to a study commissioned by the London School of Economics, those who vote are more likely to continue to contribute to other public goods. In their example, the authors of this study mentioned how they have discovered that voters were more likely to take action on issues that have a positive societal impact, and found as an example that when asked to conserve water during a drought, frequent voters, regardless of political affiliation, made more significant reductions to their water consumption than non-voters. While this represents one example, it still shows an area where voting provides a clear path for ways to encourage additional civic engagement. I see this in the aggregate as being one clear reason to vote. In following the logic of the study, if more citizens do their part and vote, then we can see tangible gains in many unexpected parts of society, a way that showcases its civic importance. The arguments for voting can be expanded when looking at the topic in an historic context. Many of the key reasons to vote can come during an examination of history. While it is a well-worn cliche that one's individual vote does not make that much of a difference, there are instances that prove this way of thinking wrong. One of the more recent instances of a small amount of votes making the difference came from the state of Florida during the presidential election of 2000. In that election, George W. Bush won 1,784 more votes than Al Gore in Florida, a 0.05% difference. This example is powerful in that it shows how a small amount of votes, 1,784 out of about 6 million cast, decided the outcome of that crucial election, making history in and of itself. Now, this one example, I believe, shows the power of voting and belies the idea that one's vote does not necessarily matter in critical elections. This is a reason that has been guided by an example from recent history, something that shows the power of individual votes. Along with this, there are aspirational reasons to vote. Aspiration is an important quality. It is a motivational quality, one that can provide an additional reason to vote. I see the act of voting as being one way to fight back against apathy, as one has to be at least somewhat engaged to head to the ballot box. It can be said that this sense of aspiration was on display during the last presidential election, as 139 million Americans, or 60.2% of the voting eligible population, cast a ballot. I see this quality as being a key reason to vote, as it represents a fundamental way that one can have a say in how their government is selected. The importance of voting is shown through some key reasons. These reasons surround the civic benefits one can obtain as a byproduct of voting. These reasons surround the historic implications of voting, and a relatively recent example that rejects the premise that an individual vote does not count. Also, these reasons surround an aspirational reason to vote, as it represents an act that signals a willingness to express one's voice while combating apathy in the process. While 300 million may appear to be a big number, the act of voting leads me to believe in an idealistic sense that we together can make that figure a little more human.